I'm so excited for this, by the way. I'm pumped.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Us too. This is awesome.
I woke up in the middle of the night and I opened the DMs and it was Hoodie and I wanted to wake you up. I'm like, bro, freaking Hoodie.
I know, you freaked out. It was incredible. All right, well, let's on that note.
Yeah. I'll let you do your intro and whatnot.
All right. Well, let's jump into it. Welcome back to the Independent Podcast, a podcast made by independent artists for independent artists. I'm here with, as always, Nick D, my wonderful wife, Brianna.
What's up? What's up?
Today's episode is a crazy one. I am beyond excited. I'm going to let Brianna do a little intro before I jump in.
All right, sounds good. We are absolutely stoked for this next guest. He's an independent artist, OG, originally from Long Island, New York. His first EP that was released in 2012 debuted at number 10 on Billboard's Top Albums chart. Shortly after, he released his debut studio album, which landed number 8 on the Billboard 200 chart. And he did this all without the help of a label. Now he's releasing an entirely new style of music in 2022, which we're so excited to chat about. Please welcome Hoodie Allen.
Let's go.
Oh my God, I've never had a nice intro before. That was so beautiful.
She kills it, man, every time.
I was so nervous writing it last night. I'm like, I have to make this perfect for
You
him.
did. You nailed it. Dude,
One day so I can have the experience.
thank you so much for being here, man. I have to tell you, when I was in high school, Leap Year and Pep Rally, I listened to more than anything. And
That's so crazy.
Those two projects were the soundtrack of my high school experience. And then when I first started dating Bree, I introduced her to your music, and your music became our thing. When we were long distance away from each other, we'd listen to it to just remind each other.
Dude, No Faith in Brooklyn was like, when I missed you, I just turned that song on.
And road tripping, it was always your music. So you have been a big part of my life. So to have you here on this podcast is amazing. So thank you so much for taking the time.
You're welcome. I am responsible for your entire relationship working out. You are correct.
Thank you.
I have a
Thank you.
child because of you.
Yeah, I've been a father for a month now, so thank you.
Oh my God. Well, congratulations. And thank you so much. That is wild to hear, because I don't understand at what point, like, it's very interesting. You know, everyone here is charting the independent waters. It's weird when people start like having real memories and associations with your music and they tell you about it and you're like, how did that happen? How is that possible? But I'm very thankful for that. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, you definitely did that. So instead of like the usual podcast format of like, oh, tell us about your come up and all that kind of stuff, I would love to just jump right in to giving the listeners value on being an independent artist, because you are, like Bree said, an OG of being an independent artist. I'm so curious. Back in like 2009, 2010, you're an independent artist. Was it as cool to be an independent artist then as it is now? How different was it?
Oh, I don't think it. That's a great question. I'm not sure if it necessarily was cool. I don't think it was necessarily even cool to myself, because I distinctly remember things started happening online for me right when I was graduating college. I had already even accepted a job to start working at Google, and I was sort of doing like, I was making that I guess I was making Leap Year at the time, the mixtape that you alluded to, while working like 9 to 5 or like 9 to 6, whatever it was. And I remember thinking in my head, okay, the goal is to get a label, because that will be the safety net, or like the justification to say you can.
Nick?
That wasn't me, was it?
No, I already declined 2 before that. I don't know how to fix that problem.
You want me to repeat it back to help you guys out and edit?
Sure, yeah, you can go back 10 seconds.
Okay. Yeah. So I remember being at Google and also like sort of doing the double duty shift and of working on music, and feeling like the only way to justify like leaving that stable job was to get a label. So I remember like the first showcase I did, there were like these LA managers, and they were like, we will, at the time at least, what a manager did was like email their 5 friends who all owned the major record labels. And if those meetings went well, everyone got paid. The manager got their cut of that advance, and you got money so that you can, you know, feel like you could be an artist full time. And I remember doing that whole process, and it didn't work out. And that's kind of where the shift happened. I'm happy to talk about it deeper, but that shift happened for me where I was like, what if I just navigate it without anyone else validating it? And it was like a weird sort of a mental shift in a way.
Yeah. Now, really quick, I want to go back, because you mentioned while you were working at Google, you were putting out these mixtapes, and you said you were popping off online. Where online was that? Was it blogs? Was it YouTube? Because obviously, you know, TikTok wasn't a thing. Like, what was the organic reach that you were getting at that time?
Totally. In 2010, music blogs were a huge differentiator. So Hype Machine, which some people might be familiar with, was like this aggregator that it was kind of like a fake billboard in a sense, where you could get your music posted to certain blogs that were part of this Hype Machine network. And then there was like a charts. So like if you got to the top of the charts, that means people really like your music. But the only way you could even be on the charts was if like certain blogs were posting you. So the whole like release strategy was like email as many of these blogs as possible with like an authentic message, like, you know, don't just copy and paste, the same things that apply now, and try to make these like genuine connections so that the blogs would share you if like they shared that type of music. So I was super focused on like trying to build those connections, and I got a couple songs to go to #1 on Hype Machine, and then I remember even paying to like be the background of Hype. Like I skinned the website with my album. It was a free download, and I paid like, I don't know, $3,000 to like basically be like an ad, but like a free ad, so that anybody who listened to me or just like knew of me on Hype Machine would maybe download my mixtape for free, and like hoping that would start like a sort of snowball effect. So it was very blog focused.
I love it. Now, at that time, did you like what guidance did you have? Did you have a team at that point? Did you have manager, or was it just all you being like, I'm going to trust my gut. Blogs is the way to go.
The first time that was happening, and I was like releasing music that way, I was still in college. So there was no like, I was kind of spearheading those efforts, which I still pretty much do to this day, because
Wow.
I am a psycho who loves being stressed out at all times. But yeah, it was very much just like kind of seeing what was working for other people. Like a lot of my early music had a lot of samples on it. Like I was flipping these indie songs, whether it was like Marina and the Diamonds or Two Door Cinema Club. And like those acts were also popping off on blogs. So I was like, if I reach out to the blogs that are already posting the original song that I'm sampling, maybe they'll be like, oh, this is an interesting remix on this. And that kind of worked a lot too. So it was just finding ways to get people's attention, especially nowadays. We know like fighting for that attention is almost the name of the game. But like, even then it was like, how do you stand out when anyone can send an email, anyone can post a video or send a tweet and want their music video to go viral? You had to like find different kind of pockets.
Yeah, totally. One thing I was curious about is, you know, because you had mentioned earlier about labels reaching out to you and you being in these rooms and having these conversations, but you said it wouldn't work out. Why didn't it work out?
Well, I remember like even before I had a bed, like even before I had got a bed in that, I moved to San Francisco for that Google job. Like my apartment wasn't even set up yet. I had gotten like a call from Republic and like Sony ATV, which is a publishing company. And they were like, we're going to split the cost of flying you back home for a meeting. And I was like, oh my God, I've made it. This is all I ever wanted. Even though I come to find out like all these labels, all they want to do is be the first one to see you. But yeah, you do these meetings and whether like I was just too green at the time, like I wasn't ready to like, whether like the little showcase that they sort of have you do or the meeting of the different presidents, like you don't come off the way that they want, whether that means like they're looking for a star and you just don't appeal that way to them or whatever metric it is. I think I just kind of didn't have the self-confidence at the time to like go into a room like that and like own it, because it like I hadn't really performed a lot. Like just even everything was so new. It was happening very much online. It wasn't like, hey, I've been touring and I've done 300 shows and like I've been speaking and putting my face out there. Like it felt very new. And I think that like newness definitely came across in some of that. So
well, the labels must have been kicking themselves when a couple years later you're doing a song with like Ed Sheeran.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like the labels, it's never really a closed door with them, right? So like anytime you have, like, even though that early moment I didn't end up getting signed, and that was obviously for the best. those conversations, like they pop up every time you do anything. I don't know if that's your experience at all.
I've noticed because I monitor Connor and Nick's emails, and whenever they have a song popping off on TikTok, wherever it may be, the inboxes are just full. Like, hi, I'm from Republic. Hi, I'm from Colombia. Blah blah blah.
Yeah. We've even had people tell us that they have metrics where they can see an increase. Like I one time had reels on Instagram going viral, and I went up like 100,000 followers in like a month. And we got a call from a label, and they were like, yeah, we got a notification about your Instagram. Like, they have access to those metrics, which is crazy. So anytime something spikes, they know, and there's always an email that's going to follow.
Yeah, it's interesting because like in this world of like A&R or scouting or whatever you want to talk about, there's definitely, because our like analytics have become so advanced, there is a little bit of like the soul taken out of it, because they could just say, based on our advanced metrics, it looks like you are having a moment. And that is interesting to us because we like to make money off of that moment.
Sure, yeah.
And you're like, all right. I mean, so I'm not surprised to hear that at all, because I think that's a lot of what people are doing. You know, like labels obviously take chances on people, but they're also, now artists are putting themselves in positions, hopefully, to have the leverage to make like better decisions, because labels are picking people who are having viral moments, like you said. Like, it's not like coming out of nowhere, you know.
Now, as you advance more in your career, as Bree kind of alluded to with Ed Sheeran and your charting, obviously there's going to be more label offers that come in. And I'm sure there were some where you looked at and you were like, and you considered it. Did you ever consider a label offer seriously, or were you set in your ways of I'm independent no matter what?
Well, it's interesting. So the only sort of collaboration that I did with a major was with the song with Ed, and I could tell that story. But it's basically I've been friends with Ed for a while before that, and
how did you get a song with Ed Sheeran? That's so cool.
I mean, it was just like him and I were drinking buddies in New York. Like, that's just my guy. I've known him since like 2011, 2012, where he was obviously still huge, but I saw like him go from playing Irving Plaza in New York, which is like 1,200 cap room, to like Radio City, like the next month sold out for 5,000, to like MS. It happened
Crazy.
Very quickly. Obviously, he's been working for years and years, but like then once it starts going, it happened very quickly. We made this song, and there's one thing to make a song, and there's another thing to get the song cleared when you are like a major label artist or a major label like priority artist. I remember having to try to get approval for the song, knowing I'm like releasing this whole album independently, and it was just a big like, no, this isn't happening. And it was crushing. I was like, what can I do? Obviously, I don't have any control here. So I thought the song was dead in the water. Like, well, we can't get approval. He's got other singles coming out. Like, I get it. It's too much. Like, why would they want me to have the ability to like use his name? And this song ended up falling on the desk of Craig Kalman at Atlantic. And then they heard the whole album, and they were like, well, we really like this. We'll do like a one-off, like non-traditional one-off deal based around this single, because it's got our guy on it and we really like it. So that was the one time in my entire like 12 years where I partnered with a label to release that music, because if I didn't, there's no way that song would have come out. But it's really interesting because I think the deal that I got, maybe it's similar to like, I don't know. I can't speak to what Russ's deal was. I'm just from things that I heard. I think it was a 50-50 joint venture on a one album, which is something that they don't really typically do. And I like handed in an album that was already finished. So it wasn't like there was like any hold up. It was like, these are the songs, they're accepted. And that's kind of very different than like the creative control and the like monetary aspect that usually happens with like a traditional deal.
Did you feel like working with that label added anything to the release? Did they hold up their end of the bargain, or would you have preferred, looking back, to have released it independently?
That's so hard to know. I really like the fact that we got to work together on it, because it gave me an interesting perspective of what being inside a building like that is like. It was the first time that I did like a radio campaign. It was the first time I had an album that was physically pressed up and sent to Best Buy and like in physical stores. And a lot of these things ultimately can be superficial, because the song itself isn't even like probably considered a top song in my like catalog to fans, you know? So still a lot of the stuff that I've released independently is the stuff that has actually sort of stood the test of time, even more so. But it was really cool because you do see certain doors open, like whether it's like MTV or some like late night opportunities, although we didn't end up doing like traditional late night for it. In Europe, the song, like in Germany, it went to like top 10 on radio.
Wow.
How much that matters 7 years later, I don't know. But it does give you like these experiences where you're treated a certain way that you don't get those same doors opened up traditionally as an independent artist. Just like the power of who you know, it definitely shines in a way. But yeah, that was kind of a very short-term deal. And then I returned right after that to doing my next release with TuneCore. So it was kind of like very back and forth of both worlds.
Do you still release through TuneCore to this day?
I was going to ask.
Yeah, I do. The song that I just put out this past Friday, I did it through TuneCore.
Congrats on that release, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, let's jump into that. So you went, what, it was like 2.5 years without releasing any music. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And you come back and you have a different sound, I would say. What would you refer to this style as?
I don't know. It's interesting. I made a lot of music over the pandemic with my buddy Nick, who is in a indie rock band called The Rex.
Okay.
And so we've written before, but his music obviously trends more in like the alternative pop rock, pop punk sort of direction. And I was going through a breakup at the time, and that kind of was the main inspiration for the music. And I think people typically get more like light poppy hip hop vibes from my music and little references and metaphors and all that sort of good stuff. This music is like still has a lot of that energy, but it's a little bit more serious, at least lyrically, because your boy was depressed AF. So I think it shines in the music a little bit, but it is interesting because I think a lot of the sort of pop punky pop rock revival has happened over the past 2 years, where I've had these songs and just been like figuring out how should I like get them back in the world. And now that's sort of where a lot of music is, or popular music. A lot of that is kind of relevant right now.
Are the other songs that you're working on right now in that similar mood and vibe?
Well, since it's all been the same producer, and I don't know if when you guys work, if you typically produce your own stuff or work with the same guys, because I've had like one producer work on this whole project, the sound feels very cohesive. So not that it's all repetitive in a sense, but I think it lives in the same world where some songs are a little bit more like singer-songwritery, some are a little bit more alternative. Right. It's interesting. It's kind of fun to test out the waters of something that you really love. So even if it's like whatever the response is, like I'm so excited just to get out this music that I love, and hope that maybe it hits different people than it would normally.
Are you planning to do a lot of TikTok promo for the new album? I've
started up. I'm actually really enjoying my time on TikTok.
I love that you're on there. It's great to see you. You pop up on my For You page all the time.
That's great. I'm not exactly sure, and I'll pick your guys' brains on this whenever you give me the opportunity to. But I've definitely made sure to try to post every single day. But it's similar to like it. I know so many artists complain about like the process of creating for TikTok or creating content in general. But to me, it's just like, it's such an opportunity to just kind of showcase your personality the same way that you would anytime. So I'm not even necessarily so focused on singularly like promoting a single. Like if a dumb idea comes to my head because I've seen a TikTok filter be used in this way, like I just want to use it however and have
I saw you using that crying face filter.
Yeah, I was trying to make something happen with that. I don't think I kind of gave up. That was my first attempt at a trend for my new song, and then I was like, this might not work. Maybe I'm gonna stop. Maybe I'll just
personally feel like the world of trends on TikTok is slowly, actually quickly coming to an end. And I think they're trying to push longer form original content. So we've noticed that when Connor's making like skits, those are the videos that are popping off more. Like you can upload 10-minute videos now.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. It's definitely moving in the direction of more long form, like you said.
But the TikTok master is in the chat right now, Nick D. Like
Nick, where you at, man?
Hello?
Hey, buddy. Good to hear your voice.
First to Nick, I was about to text him and be like, bro, you alive? I can't see you.
He's chilling, man.
What's up, everybody?
How you doing?
It's early on the West Coast. This is early time.
Oh, Nick's on the East
I'm
Coast.
in
Nick's ahead of
Virginia.
us.
It's early on the East Coast for some people.
I'm in Virginia.
Yeah, Nick's in Virginia.
Yeah,
Nobody's
no,
over
everything
here.
we've learned from TikTok has honestly been Nick. So
Yeah.
if you ever want to pick someone's brain, pick this one.
He's the man.
I just
Yeah.
be vibing.
What do you say?
What'd you say, Nick?
I said I just be
You
vibing.
just be vibing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever feels good, man.
I agree. I mean, I know that's how I originally heard of you, and then you did some shows with my buddy Bryce, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Cool.
And I was like, oh, that's amazing, because like, first off, perfect harmony, and like that's my guy. And like I think all of our musics sort of exist in a world where like I could see somebody having all of us on the same playlist, which is
Totally.
awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I think worked for you, if I'm not like stepping out of turn, is that you're just being yourself on there, and you're also doing it well. You're putting in enough effort so that like the video is engaging to people, but not so much effort that it's like manufactured in any way. Like it's still like
I always say that, like, because Cakes, he's a guy that helps me, and we have a podcast together, and we'll film content together. But he comes up with some ideas, sometimes Breed too, and and I'm like, there's a line, like Cakes will come up with some stuff, and I'm just like, it's too far into this area where like you're trying too hard, like
Nick
you're
has
not
told me
being.
there's a line so many times.
Yeah.
I pitch an
Authentic
idea and he's
or-
like, Bree, there's the line.
I'm like, Bree, look, like that is just not me, right? And but you can get really close to that line, and that's where you find really great content.
Mhm.
But yeah, you have to stick to who you are, because if you don't and you go viral for an idea that isn't necessarily your personality, then you get trapped in this place of now you're that guy. Now you have to keep pretending to be that guy.
so true.
And you're getting people to like you or to follow you or to support you for reasons that aren't even real, and then you're playing keep up, right? You're playing catch up with somebody you made up, instead of just being who you are, and then having the right people gravitate towards that.
100%. I mean, I think that same thing even goes for like if you have a song in general breakout, right? Like you see so many people who hate their like hit song. I'm like, so I feel so grateful that like I still love performing, like the hits or whatever, because what a tough place to be in, where people want something from you that you're just like ashamed of or like trying to move past, and they're like, no, that's cool, but can you do that thing again? And you're like, shit.
Yeah, and then you're stuck.
You're so stuck.
Agreed.
If someone were to ask you to perform a song like right now, not that we're asking you to, what song would you perform?
Yeah, what's your favorite to perform?
Oh man, I don't know. Obviously, No Interruption is great. Cake Boy is a lot of fun because.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about Cake Boy.
The music video in that ice cream truck,
That
right?
beat goes crazy.
Oh man,
I love that one.
I like having songs that like have an interactive part to the crowd. So for whatever reason, I know other people do this too, but people started bringing me like homemade cakes when that song came out, and with the full intention of me throwing the cakes in their face, which is a little psychophantic, I think, if that's a word. But I was like, okay. So now like people are coming to the show and they're just getting like destroyed by cakes.
That's
but there's
great.
something about that content. Like the things that people share on like Instagram afterwards is like you throwing a cake at them in the crowd. Like that's the moment they remember, not the music. And you're like, okay, this is a show.
Cut to a video of Hoodie throwing a cake at somebody.
I'll add it.
Yeah, please do.
It's probably out there.
Yeah, no, it's got to be.
I've definitely, I remember like sometimes like if the stage has like a balcony, like if it's like a floor plus balcony, I'm like, oh, I'm hitting someone in the balcony, like gotta warm up the arm, make sure I get a good throw on there, just try to be an athlete,
I love it. This is kind of a selfish question because I'm so curious. What is your recording process? Like what mic you use? Are you at home? Are you at a studio? What tools do you use to record?
Yeah. Well, so this whole last album and a lot of stuff, I feel like I live in New York. I'm usually traveling to LA because most of my producer friends live in LA.
Yeah.
Most of them have some sort of home studio, garage, or room or setup in general. So most of the ideas have been like recording from scratch in those rooms. Like I can't even remember the last time I went to like a traditional recording studio. It hasn't been in forever. So yeah, I'm trying to think. Like usually the mics are pretty good. I think honestly, you have like the Shure. What are you recording right here?
Yeah, this is the Shure SM7B. I record all my stuff on this one.
I know we've literally recorded stuff off of a mic just like that, or a different type of Shure before,
Yeah.
and then some other like condenser mics as well.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, we're talking about like not even like rooms. I mean, rooms that are sound treated, but like
yeah,
it's crazy what you can do with just the right gear and the right person. You don't really need the old school setup at
totally.
all.
So you prefer your process of creating a song, you prefer to be in the room with the producer creating a beat from scratch rather than getting like a beat pack and recording it separately?
Yeah, I love writing from scratch.
Cool.
I love working with someone who I already have that sort of comfortable vibe with. It makes it so easy because, the recording process and the writing process can be like really vulnerable, right? 'Cause
Totally.
I think the best way to do it is, especially if you're like writing with somebody, you got to be okay to like throw out ideas that are possibly bad. So
Sure.
you need to be comfortable enough to be like
Yeah.
freestyling ideas that are like, no, that's not it.
Yeah.
So I found, working with the same people, especially people who like just have a good chemistry with you, you can be a lot more open and test things out to get to like the best end product.
Totally.
Connor, you used to be super scared to be in a room with anyone, and then now with Nick, you'll write with Nick, but that's it.
Yeah, because I was so, like the whole songwriting process, especially from rapping for me, is like my first step is like rapping gibberish to try to catch a flow pattern or a melody, and doing that in front of someone sounds so stupid, right? But until you connect with people and meet other people who also do that or understand it, like you said, you just got to be around people who you're comfortable with, so you can kind of get outside of your comfort zone with somebody else. But yeah, so that was the first time I did that, was with Nick, and yeah, that was
I wanted
that was
to
fun.
ask Hoodie a question because I see a lot, because I monitor our comments. I see a lot of people that want to release music, but they're really afraid of what their friends and family would think. So back in college, when you're making these mixtapes, was your family like okay with it? Were they against it? Did you feel judged by friends? Like, what was that like?
Oh, well, I got most of that process out of the way when I was like 13, because that was really when I started like with my like $10 microphone and cracked version of like Cool Edit Pro on my like home computer. Like that was when I got a lot of those, a lot of those like, you're making terrible music and you don't want anyone to hear it sort of vibes for like my whole entire high school experience. It's weird nowadays. Like I feel like I have two conflicting opinions, because on one side of things, it's easier than ever to release music, right? Which is amazing. The barriers to entry to getting your song on Spotify, like anybody can do it. Anyone can get their music uploaded. But at the same time, because we're in it's such an easy thing to like be 14 years old, making your first song, putting it on TikTok or putting it on YouTube, and instantly getting negative feedback that could like kind of make you shrink away and like not want to do it. Sometimes I feel like it's okay to hold on to like ideas. Like you don't have to share everything you do. And sometimes I think sharing everything you do can almost be detrimental to your process. So I think in some ways you got to put stuff out there, because if you don't put stuff out there and you hold on too long, whether you're a brand new artist or you're a major label artist who's freaking out about their next move, like, you got to put things out there, because the world you make plans, but like, I forget what the phrase is, you make plans and God laughs. Like whatever's going to happen to those songs is not in your control. But when you're just starting out, I do think there's like a good reason to keep developing your craft, and you don't have to share every single idea you have. Like it's okay to keep working and working, because it takes all of us. We'll say we've had years and years of making terrible stuff before we got to like the place where like anyone should really hear it.
Yeah.
And as an independent artist, when you were popping off online, I'm sure there were some negative comments, because there's negative comments everywhere on the internet. Like, how did those affect you, or did you not really care?
My experience is there are only negative comments when you actually get popular.
That's what I say. Yeah.
Like in the beginning, I feel like nobody hates on you because if you're so small, like maybe this is 10 years ago, maybe things have changed and it's just so easy to hate on people now. But like back then, my experience was for the most part, like people start to feel some type of way about you when they think that you've earned more than you deserve. Like that's where the idea of like hate or jealousy comes from, when they're like, why does this guy have 1 million views on his video? Like this is trash. Like now I feel inadequate, or I'm gonna take my unhappiness and put it to someone else. But like early on, when you've got like 3,000 followers, like those people love you. There's no world you could imagine there being any hate. I don't know. By the way, I see a meeting time running down. I don't know if that's my fault or yours, if I have to restart it, or do you see that, or is it just me?
Oh yeah, I do.
How much time do we have left?
8 minutes.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, cool.
We
So
don't
let's just.
Yeah, we don't want to keep you too long.
We can
anyways.
finish in that time. Great.
Yeah.
No. I was saying that so that we could just rejoin the meet if you want. I'm not in a rush at all.
Okay, cool.
Perfect.
Yeah, well, all right.
Hot it up.
How long have we gone now?
I need to upgrade our Zoom plan.
Yeah, I think it is all right.
We've been going 32 minutes. This has been solid.
All right, great. All right, let's see.
Sorry, I just wanted to let you know so we didn't cross out anything.
So as
No, thank
someone who was an independent artist for so many years, and now like the TikTok exists and so many other people are able to be successful independent artists, like, do you think that that's really good? Or do you think that maybe it's not as good because it's creating more saturation and more competition, so it's going to get harder? Like, what are your views on the current TikTok world and how anyone can basically become an artist?
I think it's great. I think the idea of someone else's success, like someone else having success, having impact on your ability to be successful that's just like, it's not true.
I agree.
It comes from a place of insecurity, feeling that way anyway, and sort of like comparing yourself against others, which we're all bound to do as artists. Like the amount of conversations I've had with friends who are now huge, but like maybe I was friends with them at a time when they were like, oh, why is this guy getting a song on the radio? Or why is this guy having his videos they always pop off? Like it just comes from that place. But the truth is, like, it's an exciting time, if anything. Like you have to flow with it. Things are going to change. Those blogs that were the difference makers in 2010, most of them don't exist anymore. Right. And if I was here saying, well, the only way I want to release music is I want to make sure I premiere it with the right blog in order for it to get attention, I would be significantly behind the times. It's so important to continue doing, like at the core, you're going to do what you do, which is make music that you love, put it out there because you want to reach as many people. But that vehicle for reaching people is always going to change because how we're interacting online is changing so fast. So it's a good thing.
What's your view right now as far as consistent singles versus projects for you specifically?
Oh, in terms of releasing?
Yeah.
I think it's pretty obvious at this point that like a streaming service like Spotify loves to incentivize people who release singles. I think singles reach more people and seem to have a longer lifespan. And as someone who's coming from a place where hopefully, I don't know, knock on wood, I have like a fan base that that craves an album that says like, well, we want you to release 10 new songs all at once. There's a bit of playing a game there, because if you're only serving those existing fans, it can be a little bit of a trap, because when you do release those 10 songs all at once that no one has heard of, it is harder for them to break out than if you do the single by single strategy.
Yeah.
However, I think TikTok is almost the only equalizer to that, because as long as you don't feel cringe about it, like there's no reason why I can't decide I'm gonna try to promote any song from this record. It doesn't matter if it's a single. What is a single nowadays? Like, if something works and resonates with people, it can take on a whole life of its own. A month later, a year later, 10 years later.
I think you could do a whole campaign on No Interruption still, like, or No Faith in Brooklyn, like.
If you wanted to,
yeah.
It's hard, right? It comes to a point where you're like, oh, am I promoting this? Like, I don't know. I'm still learning a lot about myself on TikTok, because weirdly, like, people will recognize me on there. So I'm playing with like, not that I can't be myself, but I'm like, I realize when people see me, a lot of the comments will be like, oh, I haven't heard of you since this time, which is a great opportunity. And it's also sort of like, oh, I'm not hitting my fans. I'm hitting like a weird segment of people who might be familiar with you at very different levels of their life. So it's an opportunity to recapture them, but you're also like being forced upon them in some weird way sometimes too. Like they're not asking for it.
Yeah. How far ahead are you planned with your releases? Are you like, what the next few months are going to look like as far as dropping singles and another album, I assume?
So I have this album done, and I would say typically I've been so strict to myself with like the rules of what that means in terms of like, this is the strategy and I'm planning it on my calendar, and every single week this happens and then this happens. And I found like every time I've done that, I've been really unsatisfied or unhappy afterwards with like the lack of flexibility. So I'm trying to be different for like the first time in probably my entire career, where I'm a little bit more go with the flow. I know like things need time to promote and like to build that window in for different streaming services. But flexibility feels like it's a real undervalued aspect right now.
So give me like a specific example of something that you would be flexible about. Is it like if you were to post a snippet on TikTok and it blows up, you're like, okay, now I'm going to focus on just promoting this song? Like what's something you would be flexible about?
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. Like I just released this first single, and I technically should have already uploaded the second single to my to the distributor if I want it to come out at a certain time. But for the first time, I just like slowed down and said, why don't I test some songs out there, throw out and see what the feedback is, and maybe I don't need to release it in this way with like this rule, and the music video comes out on this exact day. Like maybe there's a reason to change it up and reach more people than you ever would solely just doing it the traditional way. So I'm trying to be more flexible with that.
Totally. That's great. Well, it says
do you feel similar way with your stuff, or what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm sort of riding that line between wanting to stick to a routine of releasing as consistently as possible. Ideally, like the Russ method with every week. Yeah. I know Nick, you're still wanting to do every 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, I want to do every 2 weeks. Mostly just for what is it? Not try to burn out, because I worked really hard for a long time, and it was like constant, and it's more like mental wear than anything else. Like it's mental exhaustion. My mind will get a little overwhelmed, or it started to. So I realized when I was doing weekly, and you have that like pressure to create promotional content for your music every week all the time, like constantly, like your brain, as soon as you have one song released, then you need to move on to ideas for your next one. So I think the 2 weeks gives me a little bit of a cushion where I can breathe for a couple days, or even a week if I want to, or so that's why I choose 2 weeks. It's more of a personal decision now than really a strategy.
So it's different with Connor and Nick, because Connor kind of releases as he writes, but Nick has like hundreds of songs done.
I'm so curious. Are you the kind of artist that has like 100, 200 plus songs sitting in a Dropbox, or are you kind of one by one?
I do not have 100 songs sitting in a Dropbox. That would be cool.
I wish I did. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know what I would do if I had that. I typically like, I've always feel like I've written for an album. So like you start the process and like you're kind of writing. And then it sort of starts to make sense and you kind of put things together for a release, which is kind of old school actually when I think about it. Like that's not really, but I think, I'm probably much more like you, where like I'd like to kind of write in the moment and then kind of get it ready to release. I just typically find myself holding on to music longer than I should for whatever reason. But I'm trying to adapt on that, because that's definitely a very like, throwback mentality in a way.
Is part of the reason you hold on to it anything with you being like nervous about the reception or anything like that?
Well, I think the more you hold on to it, the more nervous you can make yourself about it, for sure. No, I think just generally in the past, I've looked at things as like album cycles and like the beginning, like I often have a hard time promoting new music and writing new music at the same time. Like right now, I'm not working in the studio because I have a finished album and I'm like trying to think about, okay, what's gonna come out at what time. So I like kind of give up some of that creative side of my brain for writing new stuff. I think if I got better at balancing both of those things, I'd have an easier time just letting things go instead of and having more just sort of like recurrent singles. And I think after this album, that would be a really good like goal for myself to do, to kind of play into that world more.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask you about performing, because that's something I've never done a show for my music, and
You've never done a single show?
I mean, I've like done a performance
at a mega church.
At like a church. Yeah, my sister-in-law works at like this massive church in Vegas, and one weekend they like invited me to do like a song, and it wasn't even like, it was just something I wrote one off for them. I didn't even release it, so I've never performed my own music.
Wow, that's crazy.
And so I don't know where to start. I don't know if I do like a mini tour or if I open up for somebody and just do one or two songs. How did you start, doing live performances, and what would your advice be to me as somebody who's just never done one? I don't know where to start.
These are fascinating questions. Okay, so I would say how I started after I put out like that. I think it was after I put out Pep Rally.
Yeah,
was the first time that I had ever, or it was either Pep Rally or Leap Year, those early mixtapes that aren't even like on Spotify.
Yeah.
I felt like I had enough fans in sort of the East Coast area. I'm from New York, so I played a show in New York, Boston, Philly, and like Rochester. And because I had a booking agent at the time. My booking agent came because like the song started working on those college blogs. So then I would, for like, fly into this frat show in like Georgia Tech and play in our basement for like $750. I was like, I'm there, I'll be there. But like, other than those random gigs, I was like, I think I'm ready to try. I think I have enough fans in my local area. I can like try a hard ticket show. And it went really well. It's actually one of the things that caused me to say, I'm going to do this full time and like leave Google. Was like, I played like 4 shows over winter break and like they all sold out. I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
That was the proof I needed. But it felt like it made like people, it was like social media was the metric for it. Like whether I had enough people saying it to me on Facebook at the time or Twitter, like, or MySpace, just kidding, not MySpace, Facebook or Twitter. And you're like, okay, I think I can book this, like, I guess it's not even a tour, but like a couple holiday shows and see where it goes from there. And, yeah, it's almost like one of those things. The only way to know is to try. So I'm giving advice to you. I'm intrigued because you must have people who say, hey, when are you coming to blank?
Yeah.
And are you, in the same way that you're not nervous with music, are you nervous at all to jump into like, not the proving yourself of it, or just like the discovery of what a show would be like, both like fan-wise and all that stuff?
I think my biggest fear is like, I feel confident performing. I feel like I would be comfortable on stage. My biggest fear is like, putting tickets out and it doesn't fill the room. And like, I have all these followers on TikTok, but they're not converting in real life. That's like my fear, is like, I go to do it and like no one buys it. And I'm like, oh crap, I'm not as popping as I thought or something, That's my fear.
Guess what? That fear doesn't go away.
I guess yeah.
it will stay forever. As long as you care about what you're doing, that fear is here to stay.
Damn. All right.
Well, at least for me, as the anxious version of myself. But yeah, I mean, it is very interesting to say, well, how does like a primarily online audience translate to real life? Like we all start like, that's my start too. It's like, oh, I had MySpace and then Hype Machine and then blogs. Like how the hell is this going to translate to like people showing up in person? But the only way for it to build is to start, because otherwise, like the cities or like the states that I like have never toured in, like a Montana that I've never been, I can't do a show in Montana, in my opinion. Insert comments, people from Montana, we're baiting them, but no.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't think, like, because I never developed that market, it almost feels like it's too late. It's like, oh, well, like 80 people come if you like. So in some ways, like starting is like the biggest, is like the only thing you can do is like try. Like who cares if it,
Right.
if it,
I
like
guess I
Jack
gotta just do it.
Harlow he talks about it too. And like, I think everyone has a similar story where it's like, I remember some of those tours where he was announced. I remember he did a tour like opening up for Sammy Adams, I want to say, if I'm not completely mistaken. Like there's like everyone's gonna have their beginning. Like the amount of people who have opened up on my tours, like that's what my agent always jokes with me that I'm like the artist whisperer, because like I brought so many people on, and then like I stay here and they go,
Oh, come on.
and you're like, oh, hey, hold on. Bring me up. But like, so it's just like, everyone has that beginning. It doesn't matter. No one's thinking about it as much as you are. Like you're the only one who'd be thinking about,
Totally.
damn, this room is like undersold, or oh man, like it's not as good as I want it to be. Like it's mostly like a self thing, I think.
Yeah. Hey, Nick, what's your views on performing live? Because I know you've done it in the past
With Bryce.
and he did the Bryce moment with the Fine Apple remix. But I know like the last time we talked about it, you were saying that it's not a priority for you. Do you still feel that way?
Yeah.
Yeah, speak on
My
that.
mic's still coming good, right?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, I mean it's a personality thing for one, or like a not necessarily personality, but like a vision for my career. You know, I'm married, I have a couple kids. I'm not like a touring artist, you know. I'm not like, I don't look at touring and be like, that's the lifestyle I want, you know. I want to be around my family. So, and that doesn't mean, you know, you can't go, you know, a couple weeks here or a week here, a week there, or even 3 shows and then come back home, or that doesn't mean that I can't bring my family. It's just a different workaround. And then the other side of it is, I think a lot of artists tour, especially label artists, because they don't own their music, right? So they need to make money somewhere else. So they got to tour and make money off merch and ticket sales and brand deals. But when you own your music, you can just kind of
Make it from your couch.
Your catalog, yeah.
keep putting it out and
Good point.
generate revenue like that. And I think I saw Russ say this one time. He said, I mean, often you refer to Russ because he's kind of like the one of the main guys doing it independently. So he said something along the lines of, it's not going to be perfect, but you know, it'll cost him X amount of dollars. I'm just going to make up a certain amount of million. It'll cost him, or he'll make 4 million on tour, but it costs him 3 million to put it on. So he's, you know, profiting $1 million, and he's like, I could have made that without leaving my house, you know? So he said, I do the tours for the fans, right? He does the tours for the people. He's not doing it for
The money.
necessarily a huge spike. Now and it's probably a little different now when you're selling out arenas, but I'm sure it's more lucrative, you know, now than when he maybe stated that. But yeah, I think that's it. You know, I own all my music, and I think there's more people on the For You page than there is that are going to come to your show. So I think just for like growth, and I think there might be a time where it calls for me to do a show or 2 or 3, or do a mini tour, a little East Coast thing, a little West Coast thing. But for now, I constantly see myself in the building phase. You know, like I still think I'm building, even though I get questions about it in comments and DMs all the time when you're going on tour.
Yeah, let me know when you're ready. I have a bunch of people in your email inbox.
Yeah, I just I don't look at it and be like, yeah, let's do it. Because another reason is it takes a lot of energy. Not just like the setup of and prepping and you know, if you're gonna bring a drummer, or if you're gonna get a tour manager, or if you're a booking agent, or all those things. But it's also like, I would probably spend a mentally draining month or 2 like prepping a set and learning all the words, because I got 400 songs, and you know, like just really getting the hang of it, when I could have made 100 more songs in that same time where I didn't make anything new, and then had my next big moment with one of those songs. So I don't know, it's just like a way that I think about it. I think if I ever tour, it would really be for the people that are asking.
I'm curious your guys' opinion on this, because another thing I just realized I might fear with not touring is I feel like when I put out these songs and I might have a viral moment on TikTok or Instagram Reel or whatever, people are becoming fans of the song. And I'm always wondering, are people like big fans of me. And I feel like when you do a tour and you do a show, and if you do a great show, you leave an impact on somebody that they don't forget, and they become a fan of you for life. And so I'm always like wondering in the back of my head is like, if I'm not doing these shows, am I missing out on the opportunity to make a real connection that's going to do more than viral TikToks?
I think if you don't have another avenue where you're really sharing your personality, then possibly.
That's what's great about your podcast is what you've done so well. You've made people a fan of you because your Freddie podcast, you don't talk about music. It's just you being you. So that's a good point.
And I think another way to do that is like John Bellion when he does the making ofs. I think people really get to see a look inside of him as a person and how excited he is to create this music and what it means to him. And then when people watch that, they connect with him more. So there's other ways to do it than touring, but I think definitely you're touring, you're doing a show, you're doing meet and greets. I mean, that's obviously the next level, like in person, people really showing up in the flesh, that's a different type of connection.
When you were touring a bunch, Hoodie, did you feel like that impact as far as just your fan base, like those deep core fans started to grow because they connected with you at a show?
Yeah, I mean, I think you both just brought up some like amazing points because there's so much truth in all of that. The reasons that I do enjoy touring and something that you spoke to, Connor, is like, yeah, there is that element of bringing it to real life that does enrich those connections. And like, even for myself, like seeing somebody who like might like write to you all the time, like they're always the one who reposts your stuff, and then like you get to see them in person, like you're like, wow, like this person is real, and they're like, hey, this artist is real. So there's 100% I always thought like build brick by brick mentality where like if I respond to everyone who like tweets in this sort of way, like that person becomes a fan and tells a friend, and then those two friends come to the show and they have a great time at the show, they're bringing more people the next time. And like there is real truth and validity to that, but at the same time, like you're saying, Nick, you can only reach so many people in one day, and the tour life is extremely demanding of you mentally and physically, especially if you really like believe in that grind and you want to go meet every single person who comes to the show, which like kind of was the mentality, and you want to give that best version of yourself every day, like not even considering your home life and the other responsibilities you have and the things that are important to you. You have to put so much of that aside when it comes to touring because you're physically in a different place every single day, and take away the pressure of like, oh man, there's only 200 people here tonight, or there's 1,000 people. Like you said, any single day on the internet, you can reach more people. So I think if it's important to you, you figure out what times you want to do it and you strike a balance. But I would say nowadays, buying on someone's tour and trying to build your career by like continuing to jump on different tours here and there is very counterintuitive, and you should spend whatever money you were going to spend on that towards all of the stuff that is at your digital fingerprints, like 1,000%.
I love that.
That's great.
Hey guys, I hate to be that person, but I've got to wrap us up because we have another interview starting 2 minutes ago. But
okay.
Hoodie,
real quick though, I texted him real quick.
Oh, okay.
At the end of the day, just do what makes you feel good, what fills your cup, right? Like, because when I was speaking to Bryce, because he invited me to do, he invited me to actually, whatever shows I wanted to come and do the song that we have together. But like I said, I have a family. I did those 3. But when I was speaking with him, he loves it. He loves it. And if you don't love it, just don't do it. If you do love it, go do it. Simple. And it felt cool. It felt cool. Everyone's singing your song, 2,000 people out there. They all know the words. Like that's cool. It's hard. It's a hard feeling to replace. But like, I don't like crave it. I don't think so. And that could change, but
yeah, spend your time as an artist doing the things that fulfill you, right? Because there's so much you can do. You probably can't do every little thing you want to do anyway. There's only so much time in the day. So that's the power of being independent. You get to make that decision, right? No one's telling you this is our tour. No one's telling you this is when our single comes out. You decide the release schedule. You decide the opportunities you want to take and the ones that you don't think are for you. And then you get to have that ownership, right? In your decisions, in your music, in your catalog. Yeah. That's where the power is. And that's why I love this podcast. Boom. Use it as a pumper.
Thank you for that amazing soundbite.
Yeah, thanks for the outro.
You just made that really easy to edit.
That's the professional shit right there.
I love it. But dude, in all seriousness, thank you so much for your time and for dropping all these gems. There's a lot of value in this episode. So thank you so much.
No, my pleasure, guys. And I hope we keep in touch because honestly, watching both of what you guys do is awesome. And I could have conversations like this, recorded or not recorded, for like endless amount of time. So whenever you want, hit my line. We'll definitely do it.
I'll take you up on that, man. I'd love to. Yeah. Thank you. Cool. All right.
Thank you so much, Hoodie.
Yeah, man. Take it easy.
My pleasure. Great to meet you guys.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah.
Now I'm still dancing with 2 left feet, yeah. But with a little help, I can move on beat. Now I can moonwalk in 2 socks and groove all week.